Welcome, I'm Paul, this is Dave, the cutie pie here. Whee! Today I have 12 Glitch in the Matrix and paranormal stories for you. Let's get to it. Case file number 2829, written by Varela Lady. The photos without her. So, I have a second cousin who has been married to his wife for about 20 years. About 7 years ago, I went to a family reunion that he, his wife, and their 2 daughters were at. At one point, I was watching all of the kids, including my own. His daughters' names were Hannah and Hailey. I spent time with those girls, and I took them fishing. My daughter remembers both of them, because she was the older cousin. About 2 years later, I saw a post on Facebook that they had taken Hannah to Disney World. I was confused because I was like, where's Hailey? I've seen and taken pictures of her. My daughter remembers her. They posted lots of other posts where they were doing stuff with Hannah, so naturally I asked about Hailey, and they both stated that they did not have a daughter named Hailey. I remember having a conversation with my cousin's wife about the spelling of their daughter's name, so I went back into my Google Photos to see if I could find pictures of Hailey, and she was not there. My daughter had pictures of her in her phone as well, and she was freaked out because they too were gone. Like the pictures were still there, but Hailey was not in them. No one else in the family remembers her, even though some of the pictures were of aunts and uncles and cousins with her. It's like somebody photoshopped her out of all the pictures. I'm so confused, like what happened to her? How does this child not exist that I remember fishing with? I even asked multiple family members if they knew any child named Hailey, because I thought, well, maybe she was somebody else's kid? No one knows who she is, and even my mom states that she does not remember that name. What the hell? Also, I noticed this about 5 years ago. I did a deep dive into it. I Googled things and people involved. I found other girls with the same name, but none of them were her. I went through old photos. I was convinced something had happened to her and no one wanted to talk about it. I asked so many other cousins, uncles, aunts, and Hailey's grandparents. My daughter had taken a bunch of selfies with her cousins as they had camped out a couple of nights in the same tent. She was gone from all the pictures, even the one I had of her and my great aunt, of just the 2 of them. My daughter was 14 at the time, my son was 11, and he doesn't remember Hailey either. The girl's dad does in fact boil fish. My cousin's wife did have multiple miscarriages after Hannah, and that's why she said they only have 1 child. Maybe she was a ghost. Yeah, this gives me Back to the Future vibes with the people in the frame that were disappearing as he was making changes in the past that was affecting the future timeline. Very different time structure than we experience these days with multiverse theory, but if you could affect time going back in the same time, then yeah, things would change instantly in the future. They wouldn't fade out, they would just simply never have existed, which is so unsettling. I don't believe time works that way, but this is the first story where, okay, this is not witness protection. This is either something fudging with time itself, proving it's not multiverse theory, but it's one long sequence that is isolated and pure, only one. I'm still of the multiverse theory, so probably quantum immortality, but if it's not, if it's Back to the Future, I think that scares me more. Case file number 2830, written by Pickley Beetle, Office of the Unseen. I'm 28. Weird thing that happened number 1. A few weeks ago, I woke up and went looking for my partner to say good morning. His office opens directly into our bedroom and is only accessible from there. Our house is tiny, like 500 square feet, and you can pretty much see every part of it at all times, except for the office. We live in basically what was a converted downstairs of a 2-story house. The only doors are the front door, the back door, and the office door. I opened the office door, he wasn't there. Light off, laptop shut, empty room. I called his name, nothing. I walked around the whole house, he wasn't anywhere. His car was outside. Both front and back doors were locked. Weird, but I figured maybe he walked down the street to get coffee or something. I also called and texted him, but no reply. Maybe he had a lunch meeting I forgot about. I made some tea, or maybe coffee, probably coffee, and went back to lie in bed and doomscroll. 10 minutes later, he walks out of the office. I'm stunned. I told him what just happened, totally freaked out. He looks at me like I'm nuts and insists he was in there the whole time. But that makes no sense, because I checked. He wasn't there. He wasn't in the house, period. I would have seen him leave or come back in. He also had the missed calls and texts from me, but didn't hear them come in and missed them all. I still don't have an explanation. No, my partner isn't sneaking out or abusing me. My carbon monoxide detectors work. I don't have mold. There is no way to the upstairs apartment from inside ours. Plus, people live there. I have a camera for the front door. I was sitting in bed holding the coffee and texting friends. I have the text from that morning, and at no point did I appear to fall asleep. Plus, I would have spilled the coffee. We have a dog and cat that make a lot of noise when they see either of us. And finally, I need to stress how open and tiny our place is. Again, just 500 square feet. I've generally gone over almost everything in my mind, again and again, since it happened, trying to debunk it, and I really can't. My partner is also enjoying reading theories, but swears he only remembers being in the office all morning, and yes, I believe him. Only taking the dog out around 6 a.m., when this happened around 10:30 to 11 a.m. It really does feel like a glitch to me. I wonder if he was momentarily taken out of phase from this universe, or if he just has invisible woman's powers and he doesn't know. There was a story about that before where someone was invisible, but it's not like an activated power. They could still see themselves, but other people would miss them. Like he'd be sitting on a chair and they would sit on it too, or he was out fishing and someone who should have passed by them didn't see him. There's no explanation other than he just wasn't seen. Are we talking a glitch in the Matrix specific to that person or some kind of X-Men superpower? I think superpowers are more fun, but probably just a glitch. Case file number 2831, written by Cosette World. Amazon Prime and the Timeline Crime. I don't want to overdo the rhyming titles, but this is fun sometimes. I've been in a chronic illness flare lately. It's been really getting me down, which is unlike me. I've also been very fatigued. Last night, I was finally feeling a little better. I was sweeping and mopping my downstairs, taking rests in between. My mood was better. It was a completely ordinary evening. My son was on the front porch, hanging out with my neighbor kid. I sat down for a little break, and my phone dinged. Amazon delivered. I just sat down, but it's fine. My son is outside. Won't get stolen. Just as I'm feeling guilty about not grabbing it, my son comes inside saying, "Amazon came." And as I stood up, he walked into the kitchen where I was and handed me the box. It was light. I remember how it felt in my hands. I thought about looking for a butter knife to open it with, but decided it wasn't an emergency and I should just get back to my break. I left the box on the counter and sat back down at my desk. 2 minutes later, my son came down the stairs asking, "Did my Otter Pops come?" Not wanting to get up, I checked the Amazon website on my laptop in front of me. Then I remember taking the box from his hands. "Oh, no dude, that box definitely was too light for Otter Pops. Let me see if they're out for delivery." I check Amazon and it says everything I ordered that day has been delivered. "Oh, my bad, they're here. Check the front," I tell him. He did, and returned with a large bag of Otter Pops. I'm feeling energized again, and I start looking for the other box so I can use the allergy eye drops I ordered. It's nowhere. The Otter Pops are on the kitchen counter, so I asked my son where he moved the other box to. "What other box?" I looked everywhere, thinking I must have moved it and forgotten. Nothing. My son is denying he ever said anything about or handed me this box. He also doesn't remember asking if his Otter Pops came just moments before. I go on the still open webpage to show him it's been delivered, and now it says, "Arriving today," not "Delivered today." The box with those items in it arrived 1 hour later, in a much smaller box than the first. I don't even believe in simulation theory. I have been racking my brain trying to come up with cognitive reasons for this. It was just so normal. Not emotionally charged, not important, just sheer random. This was yesterday at 7:55 p.m. EST. I remember looking at the clock when I checked Amazon the second time. I always thought these stories were just people doing imaginative sci-fi creative writing. But now? I don't know. Could it be from toxin exposure? My neighbor has been burning wood non-stop lately, and it's been really irritating my eyes. It doesn't bother anyone else. This didn't feel weird though. Nothing at all felt out of the ordinary. That is what made it so unsettling. Case file number 2832, written by The Real Firas. The Park, the Protest, the Pen. Something happened during my recent trip to Germany, and it's been stuck in my head ever since. I feel like I need to write it down somewhere. Maybe someone has experienced something similar. A couple of weeks ago, I traveled to Munster to meet a close friend. One afternoon we were chilling in a small quiet park. Not a tourist place or anything. We were just laying on the grass when this old man, maybe 65 or 70, came up to us. He had green eyes, long hair, dressed normally, not homeless, but something felt off. He started speaking to us in a language that sounded like German, but it wasn't. He was talking super fast and making weird hand gestures like a love sign, and movements that felt like he was trying to share energy or love with us. My friend whispered that we should just ignore him, that he didn't seem normal. So we did, and eventually he left. A few days later, we went to Berlin for a huge Palestine protest. There were like 60,000 people there. After it ended, we were laying down again in a random spot with other people around. My friend was talking to a girl and I was on the phone. I randomly looked up and saw the same man from the park in Munster. Same guy, same face, same clothes, same hand gestures, same energy. I ran to my friend and told him. We were both shocked. We approached him, but he didn't seem to recognize us. Still, he did the same thing, same weird speech, same hand signs. At this point, we were just confused and a little freaked out. What are the chances of running into the same exact man in a completely different city doing the same exact thing? But that's not even the end of it. A couple days later, we were in a bar. My friend went outside to smoke and a man in his 40s came up to him and randomly started a conversation. Nothing too strange. Then 2 nights later, we were at a club and that same man showed up again. He walked past us, said hello, and sat somewhere not too close. About 40 minutes later, I suddenly felt someone tap my shoulder. I turned around and it was that same guy holding a pen and insisting that I take it. I told him no, it's not mine, but he kept holding it out toward me, like he really wanted me to take it. The vibe was really strange. My friend and I looked at each other and we just felt so off, so we left the club right after. Later, we kept thinking about it and wondering if these two guys were somehow connected. One kept repeating a message about love. The other kept trying to give me a pen, which felt more symbolic than random. Both appeared twice, both in completely different places, both out of nowhere. We're still trying to process it all. If anyone's ever had anything like this happen, I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're open to any kind of interpretation, spiritual, logical, psychological, just trying to make sense of it. Sort of like guardian angels that were out of phase with the reality they were sent to govern. And, makes sense. If guardian angels exist, it's not just one single universe that has it, it's all the multiverse that has access to these guardian angels. Maybe not every person in them, but most do, I'd guess. And maybe they're guardian angels from a different universe where the language was a bit different. They're sent here and trying to adapt and trying to warn you. Now, what does giving you a pen mean? I have no clue. And I guess they failed in their job if they were trying to send you a message. That, or it's alien imposters, which is much more fun. Case file number 2833, written by Usual Effective 6536. The Uncapped Mystery. Okay, so I was just sitting outside, and I had my phone leaning on a half-full closed water bottle. I was recording myself while smoking a cigarette. I had a cup with some past-smoked cigarettes sitting beside it. I then put the cigarette I was smoking in the cup, but it didn't fully go out. So I removed the water bottle that was holding my phone up, and I opened it and poured some into the plastic cup. I still had the same cap from the water bottle in my left hand, and I guess I looked away for a millisecond or something. But I sat the water bottle down, and it was closed. with a whole nother cap, and I swear I'm not crazy. I even tried to pour out the water bottle again in the cup to see if the lid was just broken and water could still come out of it, and maybe I was just holding another lid. But nope, it is fully closed, and that makes no sense, because I know for a fact I didn't close the lid, because I still have it in my hand. I don't know, man. I'm so confused, and I wish my phone caught it on video, but when I removed the water bottle from holding it, it fell and was recording the ceiling. I'm really trying to come up with how this could have happened, but I have no clue. Case file number 2834, written by Awakening Nova. Blue Jumpsuits in the White Abyss. I have two memories that overlap, with one I thought was a dream. I was completely sober during this experience, as I have been questioned in the past whether I was on something and imagined it all. I assure you, I was not. I woke to orange light shining through the curtains. I had orange-colored curtains, so I immediately assumed the sun was rising. I look at the clock and it's 3 a.m. I say it's 3 a.m. My ex gets up and opens the curtains and the light is gone. I look back at the time and it's suddenly 4:30 a.m., I think, and we both go back to bed as if nothing happened. I can't remember his name, but I can see his face. I bought substances from him only a couple times before it was legalized. He was kind, thin, and short in stature. Long, dirty blonde hair. I always felt he was reptilian, not a malicious one like you might expect. My experience starts with only being able to see his face close up, fine detail, and he's upset. He yells, "Why is he here? He shouldn't be here." And I mutter, "What are you talking about?" I'm dreaming. Then everything turns to white as his face disappears, as he says, "No, you're not." I hear my ex, "Hey, look what I can do. Are you seeing this?" I ignore him and continue forward as almost in a watercolor fashion, there's an alleyway with brick buildings and an abandoned old blue car. Suddenly, people in blue jumpsuits with hats are surrounding me, and I hear them taking my ex away. I keep looking towards this alleyway, as it slowly fades away and gives way to glass where I can see multiple species of beings standing there. Then that's it. My ex's account. He opens the blinds to find everything is on fire. He then suddenly sees the guy's face, behind me in a white abyss. He starts to notice anything he imagines pops up as reality. He's desperately trying to show me what he's doing, but I'm ignoring him and walking ahead. Men in blue jumpsuits take him away, separating him from me. A few weeks later is when I finally verbalized with him I didn't think we were in the same universe. We were visiting my parents and their personalities were so vastly different than they were before. Several memories we share were significantly different as well. Things that were core values of my mom. We know I would never say something like that, never felt like that way in my life. Prior to that realization, I started to notice little things, like spelling of certain words, along with my very OG Mandela effect differences, which I wouldn't learn of this effect until 5+ years later. Over the next few years, my ex would slowly lose his mind. We eventually split. He was very abusive, so I'm not upset. At the end of the relationship, he also flipped a switch, like he suddenly didn't remember any shared experiences from the prior timeline. At that moment, I shut my mouth, never to speak to him about it again. At first, I thought he was just being a jerk and gaslighting me out of spite. Later in life, a couple years ago, through deep meditation and conversations with spirit guides, I learned that I had been strategically taken from that timeline, one where the world had gone out in a literal blaze, and that my ex was not supposed to have been taken with me. He was meant to die in that timeline. When he was taken to this timeline, his soul didn't have a proper connection to the soul of himself in this timeline, so there wasn't a smooth transition like mine, which is what caused the mental break in reality, and the internal battle of his souls fighting for which would stay, only for the soul of this timeline to push the soul of that timeline out. My transfer had been strategically planned from the start, and the body it was placed into didn't have the same kind of soul as a traditional soul. I was told by guides that they are called burner souls, but recently realized the term NPC is very comparable to what a burner soul is. Ultimately, it is a placeholder soul for those being transferred through collapsing timelines to easily fall into place without the internal battle my ex experienced. Example timeline difference. I wanted to share this other difference that was between my world and this world. On September 9th, 2001, I was in school in New York. We were sent home early, out of fear schools may be targeted. When I got home, my mom wasn't there. I called all her friends asking if they knew where she was, because she would sometimes go shopping in the city while I was at school. I started to panic and rushed to my neighbor's house, where she had the news playing, and made me and her 2 young daughters peanut butter and honey sandwiches. That was the first time I'd ever had that combination, and since then, it has become a safe and comfort food of mine. I have ADHD. When I shared that story with her while making myself a sandwich as she was at my house, she said she was home when I got home, and that she was getting calls non-stop from friends and family asking if we were okay. An ensemble of experiences, the dream itself, revealing the future from probably a different timeline entirely, and I like the spirit guides, more like just a Paul guide at the end there, which is basically saying what I've been saying, which I've just, guessed or deduced, you could say, from all the stories I've read, where, different timelines, different universes in the grand multiverse ocean, and we can traverse them. And I think there are some people that are NPCs placeholders, not to offend anyone. I'm not specifically singling out any individual, but I'm just saying there probably are some people that are more like automatons. Are they even self-aware? Maybe not. They're just there, like NPCs in a video game, plenty of human players around that have real souls. But when we transfer over, if it's a full soul, let's go, maybe I still think there can be a blending that happens, but maybe if the souls are too divergent, then it doesn't blend correctly, and you get a kind of internal soul battle, and which one has to take over the other. They can't, it's like puzzle pieces that won't mesh together. So you have to have them closely aligned, close enough, or the fusion it would destroy both souls. Almost like incompatible blood. If you transfuse blood that is of the incorrect type, the blood itself will become poison. Case file number 2835, written by Sick Donut. The Meow Between Worlds. My cats sometimes vanish in a way that makes no sense. There's only one place in this house they can feasibly hide in, at least in a way that makes it difficult to see, which is the area under the stairs that functions as a kind of pantry off from the kitchen. I've been aware of them disappearing sometimes, particularly my oldest cat, as she had some anxiety issues from her previous owner. But the first time I really got freaked out was when I couldn't find her at all and was worried she got out because I'd left the door open for a few seconds earlier in the day. She's a treat fiend and normally comes running when I shake the bag of Dreamies. This time she didn't emerge, so at that point I started to get really concerned and went scouring the entire house. I ended up pulling out as much as I could from under the stairs, and there was no sign of her, like shining my phone light in there to try to catch an eye shine. It ain't super deep in there or anything, but I was running through every option. Ended up actually going outside and searching through all the neighbors' gardens several times over, because it was getting dark and she's not equipped to deal with the outside in any shape or form. She's basically a little anxious cloud. Searched the house again, probably went through the place 5 times, just getting really scared for her safety. No joy. At some point I sat on the floor and went over to leave the door open and decided it was extremely unlikely she'd gotten out because it had been literally seconds. She's too nervous to run out, and I would have seen her. So I was like, well, she's gotta be in here somewhere. I'm just gonna have to wait for her to come out. Of course, she reappeared about an hour later, like nothing had happened. Now when I can't find one of the cats, I just chalk it up to them having stepped into the cat dimension, and they'll emerge when they're done with whatever otherworldly cat thing they're doing there. Case file number 2836, written by Zeus, Echoes of Joe. My cousin and I grew up living in different countries, but we stayed at our grandparents' house every summer. Occasionally, one of her friends would visit for a few days. One summer was Amy Smith. She was cool and made an impression on me, though I felt she partied a little too hard, if you know what I mean. This was about 13 years ago. We were 17, 19. I would ask about Amy when I saw my cousin every summer after that, and about 2 years later, my cousin said they had drifted apart. Amy's brother had OD'd, and she got really depressed and spiraled into substances. My cousin felt bad, but they weren't in touch anymore. Life went on, and I put Amy and her brother out of mind. Occasionally, I saw Amy's Facebook posts, and some of them were tributes to her brother tagged as Joe Smith. Her real name was unique and memorable, which reinforced the story in my head that her brother died, and his death shattered her. I celebrated the 4th of July last weekend with my cousin in her hometown. There were a bunch of her friends there wearing sweatshirts in memoriam of Joe Smith. My cousin said, "Remember Amy, who visited us a long time ago? Her brother OD'd. We made these sweatshirts in his honor." I thought to myself, that's nice that even 10 plus years later, they're keeping his memory alive. We were distracted, making barbecue during this convo, and didn't talk about it beyond that, except looking at Facebook later. There were a few posts of the party and sweatshirts saying something along the lines of, "Can't believe it's been a year since Joe died. We miss you, bro, always in our hearts." I thought that was weird, so I did some digging on Facebook. I saw a post by Amy with a black and white picture of her and Joe as kids, talking about how she was 18 months clean. It was hard, but she was proud, and she knew Joe was looking down from the afterlife, proud of her too. Posted in November 2024. I swear I'd seen this exact same post, except more like 5+ years ago. I remember the 18 months clean milestone and thinking good for her. I remember the black and white picture and talking about her brother looking down from the afterlife. I look back at Amy's timeline, and posts about her brother's death did just start a year ago. All the posts about him before that, he was alive and well. I texted my cousin to ask if Amy had any other brothers who had died. She said Amy had only one brother, the one who died last year. I told her I remember her telling me about this years ago. She said that was impossible since the brother died last July, but he had been struggling in and out of rehab for years, so maybe she had talked about that and I misunderstood and thought he died? But I don't think so. I vividly recall her saying her brother died and seeing tribute posts about him for years. Anyway, not the craziest story ever, but I thought I would contribute my experience to the archive. Maybe I am just misremembering, but it feels very real to me. My cousin says I should let her know if I have any more psychic premonitions of people dying. Case file number 2837, written by Cooking Blues. Time slipped, Southbound. I travel for a living, and one of the territories that I've traveled many times, not to mention the fact that I grew up around this particular area, and I'm well acquainted with the roadways and the surrounding towns. So today, I left my home at 10:30 a.m. for a trip that took me 2 hours and 15 minutes. About halfway through the trip, I started to feel extremely tired and was coming up on the main towns that I passed through. I thought to myself, I'll just get through this small town, and at the other end are a couple of restaurants where I can stop. I'll get out, go to the bathroom, get something to eat, walk around, and wake myself up. As I'm sitting at the top of this hill, at this light, waiting to turn right, there's some cars ahead of me. The next thing I know, I'm looking around singing a song on the radio and trying to figure out where I am. I see a sign. I'm about 10 miles from my destination, which means I've missed about 25 miles of my trip, straight through town, under bridges, stoplights, stop signs, curvy roads, hills. 25 miles of my trip are missing, and when I got to the client where I was going, I looked at the clock, and it was 2:30. It took me 4 hours to make a 2-hour and 15-minute trip. I do not know where the time went, nor do I know where the miles went. So, more than a space-time portal, indeed. And I think it's much more than some kind of seizure. It's not sleepwalking, where people are capable of complex tasks in their sleep, but no, you were still awake, even though a bit tired, and it wasn't a seizure. So, it's almost like, I think there was a story before where a guardian angel took over, temporarily possessed someone, and saw them through until where they could release the reins back to the person. Case file number 2838, written by Extension Solid, 2797. 6 minutes to nowhere. This happened to me and my husband driving to work last week as we do the same day every day. We saw our friend walking down the hill near work. We commented that there was our friend. We both looked at the time. We reached the car park entrance and looked at the time again. The time it should have taken from where we saw our friend walking to when we reached the entrance of the car park should have taken 2 minutes absolute maximum if we had to stop at a traffic light. We did not stop at a traffic light, and it took 6 minutes all up. We both confirmed how we both noticed the exact same time we saw our friend to the time at the car park entrance, and wondered if the time had sped up somehow, or was it just our clock in our car playing up? The same kind of time thing happened to me at work one day recently. I may have just zoned out, bit tired and stressed, but I was creeped out that 10 minutes had passed in a flash on the clock on my computer when I was working on a very simple task that would have taken me 30 seconds to a minute to complete. I felt very alarmed by this when I had lost about 9 minutes, so when my husband and I were driving and experienced the same weird time, I thought back to the time on my computer at work 2 weeks prior. Is technology playing up, or is this just what happens as we get older? You combine time and roads and cars and you're always going to get bizarre instances like this. Now, sometimes it doesn't have to be in a car, or time slips can happen just by proximity of a portal. I guess portal is a good word, but it's more like a distortion in reality, yeah. Case file number 2839, written by Wheeze Na Jenkins, Seconds to Silence. This happened to me when I was in high school. I was driving on my way to orchestra rehearsal, which took place inside the school. I drove myself to school every morning. This morning I was showing up extra early because it was a rule in orchestra that early was on time and on time was late. It was for a quartet, so I had people counting on me to be there at the right time. As I'm a block away from the school, I checked the time. It's 6:45. The rehearsal starts at 7, so I have plenty of time. As I pull into the parking lot, I check the clock in my car again. 6:46. Still plenty of time. I check my phone clock just to make sure the other clock is right. 6:46. Perfect. I park and walk 100 feet into the school and down the hallway to get my instrument. I go into the practice room and everyone gives me a dirty look. One of them asks me why I'm late. I'm so confused and I check the clock in the room. It's 7:05? I figured it must be wrong and I go to defend myself as I pull out my phone to show them the real time, but no, it's 7:05. 6 years later, I still have no idea what happened in those 20 minutes. It normally took a total of 60 seconds to get from the car to the band room. Still freaks me out to this day. There's other things that have happened in that same school that freak me out. Case file number 2840, written by the 13th Alatnil clone. There's no one by that name. In year 3, a new student entered my school. She had a younger brother who lost his pinky finger by shoving it into his sister's bike spokes in a failed attempt to stop her riding. We weren't great friends, but we occasionally spent time in each other's houses playing. She left to go to a private school in year 6. I was informed which school she was destined for. Her brother also went to a different school, presumably a boys-only private school, as she was sent to an all-girls school. I didn't think much of it at the time, other than I'd lost a friend. Years later, we had a school reunion, and all students in our age bracket that had attended the same primary school were invited. She didn't show up. I asked about her, and the people who knew her thought it was odd she didn't show. A few years later, I happened to be assigned to do work at the school she claimed she was heading to, and I inquired into how she did. She was a very high achiever at my school, and I was curious if it was because we were all thickos or if she was genuinely really bright. They had no record of her. This got me curious. I tried to track her down or her brother. I can find no evidence of any member of her family after they removed their kids from the primary school I attended. I knew the house address and inquired through council land sales the names of her parents. They seemed to have vanished off the face of the earth at the point the house was sold. I'm secretly hoping the entire family was put into witness protection for whatever reason, because they were never flagged by the police as missing. I know she existed as I still have my year 3, 4, and 5 school photos with her in it, as well as a handwritten birthday card she gave me. Yeah, if I had to guess, this one is a witness protection story. You never know, but all signs point to that. In this case, there's no weird photos that are self-photoshopping themselves from reality, so not like the first story, but it's still a mystery that probably will never be fully solved. Now time for the jokes of the day. When my wife is sad, I let her color in my tattoos. Turns out, she just needs a shoulder to cry on. My son just ran up to me waving his tablet and screaming, "Daddy, my internet isn't working." What is it? It's a worldwide network of computers and other systems that all speak to each other, but that's not important right now. Turns out he'd put it in airplane mode by accident. I met a guy from North Korea and asked him what his country was like. He said he can't complain. He definitely can't. My friend asked me what the 9th letter of the alphabet was. It was a complete guess, but I was right. I gave my handyman a to-do list, but he only did jobs 1, 3, and 5. Turns out he only does odd jobs. YouTube thinks you'll like this video. Check it out, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe. See you next time.